Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 9th of March, now it's 15 to 1, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There is quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me ask you, if I may, for your support with small donation through PayPal or Patreon. You will see links under the video in the description box. Of course, if you have such opportunity and if you think that this channel is interesting, useful and should exist in this field of news and political commentary. That being said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with Ukrainian special military operation. And first news is that previous night Russian side did conducted large-scale missile strike on logistical, energo and military infrastructure of Zelensky's regime. Let me give you some specifics about these missile strikes. So explosions sounded in Odessa and Odessa region, Nikolaev region, Dnipropetrovsk city, Dnipropetrovsk region, Zhytomyr region, Kharkov region, Kharkov itself, city, Vinnytsia region, Lvov region, Zaporozhye region, Kiev, capital of Ukraine, and Kiev region, Ivano-Frankovsk region, Ternopil region, Khmelnytsky, Volyn, Chernigov, Kirovograd regions, and also Sumy regions. So as you can see on this map, for example, all these places with signs of explosions all these regions were targeted. And let me give you some more specifics. Russian Defense Ministry did not make any statements yet. We will probably learn about it a little bit later from Russian side, from Russian official sources. But according to Defense Ministry of Ukraine, Russia launched 81 missiles, including 6 Ha-47 caliber missiles. And this is something new, as I understand, because, and let me show you, for example, this is a MiG-31 jet fighter, and that's caliber missile under the belly of this jet fighter. And as you know, there is no air defense system in the world that can shut down these hypersonic missiles. And what is new about today's missile strike is that it's the first time when Russian side did use 6 caliber missiles simultaneously in a single strike. And let me show you on the map this picture. As you can see, all these dots with explosions shows you areas where logistical, energo and military infrastructure was targeted. It's all around Ukraine, including western regions. So I did think about this situation before I start recording video, and in my opinion, it's quite possible that Russian side with the Kinzhal missiles, I may say caliber previously, but this is Kinzhal missile, hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. So with these missiles, quite possibly were targeted warehouses where Ukrainian side store not just ammunition but also military equipment that Zelensky's regime received from NATO member states in previous weeks, including Leopard 2 tanks. So my guess is that quite possibly Leopard 2 tanks that Poland, German-made Leopard 2 tanks that Poland did deliver to Ukraine may be already destroyed. If not all of them, at least some of them. And probably we will learn about this in next few hours, maybe next few days. It depends it depends how well Zelensky's regime will hide information that those tanks have been destroyed. Maybe not all of them, but at least some part of that deliveries for sure. And yes, let's see how will develop situation. This is Kommersant, a newspaper here, which is reporting that in 7 regions of Ukraine, energo facilities was also hit. I just give some specifics that many regions in Ukraine was under air raid alert, and explosions were heard in many of them. So let's continue now. And that's news, man. That's news that I want to share right now. And we have information. This is TASS news agency is reporting that according to head of Ministry of Defense of Poland, Mariusz Błaszczak, Poland already delivered to Ukraine all 14 Leopard 2 A4 tanks that it promised to Ukraine. First stage was 4 tanks, and now Polish Defense Minister is saying that 10 additional tanks also have been delivered. And this statement, it's interesting, isn't it, that we are hearing about this statement now after a missile strike that the Russian side conducted previous night. So it's quite possible that one of the Kinzhal missiles did hit warehouse or storage facility where these Leopard 2 tanks were deployed or stored. It seems quite logical to me. So let's see how we'll develop this story. In my understanding, maybe all of the Leopard 2 tanks are already destroyed, or at least some of them. But after all, as I said many times before, no matter how many Leopards, how many Western-made battle tanks will be sent to Ukraine, Zelensky's regime and Western elites already lost this fight. They already lost this battle. It's only a matter of time when Western elites will come to realization that they lost. Let's continue now. This is RIA Novosti is reporting that according to statement of head of PMC Wagner, Evgeny Prigozhin, Russian side did establish full control over the settlement of Dubovo-Vasilievka. Let me show you this on the map. Dubovo-Vasilievka is the northwest side of the Bakhmut. That's it. This is the settlement I'm talking about. This pro-Ukrainian map is not acknowledging this, but I have no reason to doubt statements that Prigozhin has made. After all his statements have been confirmed previously, so I'm quite sure this settlement is under Russian control now. And if you take a look at the map, forward Russian units now are in proximity of Grigorievka here and Bogdanovka here. And also, just look at this, man, Russian forward units of PMC Wagner are in vicinity of Khramovaya, right next to the Bakhmut itself. And you can see on this map with your own eyes how difficult situation truly is for Bakhmut garrison. Yes, Russian side is not closing this gap, at least for now. But in my understanding, that's because Moscow may be waiting for Kiev, for Zelensky to so that he may made up his mind and ask Moscow for humanitarian corridor, so that Bakhmut garrison will be withdrawn. From Russian side, it's a goodwill gesture towards Ukrainian society, because I said many times before that majority of Ukrainian soldiers on the front line, and especially in the Bakhmut, are forcibly mobilized and forcibly sent to the front line, ordinary citizens of Ukraine. And that's why I do understand if Moscow will make such a gesture, and if Moscow will give to Zelensky's regime day or two to make up their mind. But to be honest, I don't think that Zelensky or his Western masters will conduct any negotiations with Moscow about anything, including humanitarian corridor for Bakhmut. They will sacrifice Bakhmut garrison, but would not recognize that they have lost this battle. But when it comes to general situation, as you can see, Russian side is moving forward in direction of Chisov Yar also, and as I predicted many weeks ago now, we may see situation where not just Bakhmut but also Chisov Yar will be under operational encirclement of Russian forces. We can say that all the roads towards Chisov Yar is already under fire control of long-range Russian artillery. So situation for Chisov Yar garrison not much better than situation for garnison of Bakhmut. So let's continue now. When it comes to general situation on the front line, as you can see in south part, it's mainly artillery duels between the sides. Donetsk direction is quite active. Russian side is little by little pushing forward in direction of Avdiivka, as you can see. And yesterday I did report that Russian forces established control over this settlement here, Veselaya. And if you take this in account, that means that this area here also under Russian control, and basically once Russian side will take control over the Severnaya here, and then we can say for sure that Avdiivka is becoming under operational encirclement. It will take time, of course, because I'm quite sure Russian side will become more active in direction of Avdiivka or in direction of Seversk here once situation with Bakhmut and Chisov Yar will be resolved. And this will take at least a week or two, as I understand. At least. So let's continue now. Let's continue. And next news is that this is RIA Novosti's report about failed attempt of Ukrainian SBU, Secret Service of Ukraine, to assassinate leader of Transnistria, Vadim Krasnoselsky. And we have information here that one person was detained who was involved in this attempt to assassinate head of Transnistria, and I believe security forces of Transnistria received some help from Russian side. During the day we will probably learn more, but I think this assassination of leader of Transnistria quite possibly was a first stage of provocation that Kiev and Chisinau governments of Ukraine and Moldova were planning to conduct in direction of Transnistria. Probably they had a plan to first assassinate a leader of Transnistria and then move forward the military forces But as you can see, this attempt failed. So let's see how will situation develop from here. In general, I mean, as a fact, we can say that at least leadership of Ukraine is definitely are bloodthirsty murderers, because they are killing people left and right, or at least trying to kill people left and right, like it's nothing. So Zelensky is a mass murderer, and the entire leadership of Ukraine, they should be trialed for crimes against humanity. That's for sure, and that may happen. You know, Zelensky may escape, and some of the leaders of regime in Kiev may escape, but not everyone will be able to do so. Let's see. This is TASS News Agency. This is TASS News Agency, which is reporting about statements that Russian ambassador in USA made. He was outraged because White House did give award award for International Woman of the Courage to a member of Ukrainian neo-Nazi Azov regiment, Yulia Paevskaya, and she is a murderer, and the Russian ambassador, and this news article here from TASS is articulating that in 2022 this person was in Mariupol, in Azovstal, and she tried to flee with 2 kids that she kidnapped, and previously she did kill the parents of these kids and threatened these kids to be quiet. But eventually kids were freed by Russian side, and they did spoke about situation that they went through to Russian journalists and Russian investigators. And just look at it, man. This murderer, this neo-Nazi murderer, has been celebrated in White House. I mean, when you think that U.S. government cannot fail anymore, that they reach bottom, they are somehow managing to fail even deeper, man. That's exactly the situation. If I was a citizen of USA, I would be outraged, really. I mean, it's just it's hard to believe what US government is doing. They are. This is not the first time, isn't it, that US officials are celebrating Ukrainian neo-Nazis. This is not the first time, but that's a situation that we are seeing. So I do understand why Russian ambassador in US, Russian ambassador Anatoly Antonov was angry about this event. It's fully understandable. Let's continue now. Let's continue, and still TASS News Agency, and we have statement from former Russian president and current deputy head of Security Council of Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, and he is talking about this media story that Washington is pushing now. Washington and U.S. Secret Services are pushing now about Nord Stream pipelines, and some non-existent pro-Ukrainian group that blew up these pipelines. And Medvedev has stated that this is just a cheap propaganda. Medvedev is a high-ranking Russian official, most high-ranking Russian official that react on this new propaganda move from Washington, and he said that the entire world is shocked by this cheap move from Washington, because of course nobody gonna believe in this crap. It's obvious. And basically Medvedev is trolling US government and US elites, saying that, I mean, that this is just epic drama in Hollywood style that was conducted, and yes, I mean, it's just cheap media propaganda move. No one, of course, believes in this crap, and I don't know, damage is already done. As I understand, Biden and the current government of USA did damage US reputation unbelievably with this act of international terrorism, and there is no way now out from this story. After Nord Stream pipelines were blew up, it's obvious that US government, at least under leadership of these neoliberals and neocons, US government is capable of crossing any red lines, and no infrastructure are safe anywhere, and no one and nothing is saved, basically. And I can see how wary, for example, Turkey will be, because they are trying, for example, to build up some energo hub, which will be probably used by Russia also, and Turkey wants Russia to be part of this energo hub, because Russia is main player on market of oil and gas. But who will give any guarantees to Turkish government that US will not blow up pipelines or energo infrastructure in Turkey? No guarantees, isn't it? And we can say same stuff about any other country, really. And this will definitely have consequences. This will definitely have consequences, man. I cannot believe that Biden and the current US government damage US reputation in such a scale, man. How they can do this, but they did. Let's continue now. This is still TASS News Agency, and we have information about U.S. intelligence services U.S. secret services basically are saying that they have no information that Russia is planning to conduct any military actions against NATO. So yesterday, if you remember, I did share with you a statement of White House official who was saying that if Russia would not be stopped in Ukraine, Russia will move next towards west. And I noticed that next to Ukraine, in the west side, is NATO member states. All of them. Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, they are NATO member states. And I said there is no way anyone gonna believe in straight mind that Russia is planning to attack NATO. And of course I was right. It's just simple true, isn't it? And now we have information from US intelligence services, and they are saying that Russia not planning anything like attacking NATO. It's obvious, man. It's obvious. But some U.S. officials and some officials in general, I mean, in the world, especially in the Western world and the countries that are controlled by Western elites, officials, they are increasingly, officials in those countries are increasingly uneducated. Truly, I mean, and I did notice this not yesterday or today. I did notice it for many years ago. because statements that they are making clearly shows that they just have no knowledge. Remember, once press speaker of State Department said that U.S. will send its fleet to shores of Belarus. You know, Jen Psaki, she did not even know that Belarus is a landlocked country. Which fleet you gonna send to Belarus? But I mean, that's one example. For example, you know, there's many examples that when you listen to those statements, you think, I mean, come on, guys, you cannot be that uneducated. But they are, really are. You know, let's continue. And we have information about Georgia, of course, and the situation is not resolved in Georgia. As you know, I was reporting entire week now that U.S. is actively pushing Georgia towards destabilization, and U.S. actively using its assets to not just destabilize Georgia, but to prepare ground for regime change. And as a reasoning, they used the draft law about foreign agents that Georgian parliament was trying to work on. And there were a few days of conflict between supporters of opposition, so-called opposition, and police in Tbilisi, in capital of Georgia. So-called opposition supporters tried to enter parliament many times. They were throwing, I did show on my Telegram channel all those videos. You know what am I talking about. They throw Molotov cocktails towards police and stones and just, you know. And this morning we have information that majority in Georgian parliament, majority of ruling party, Georgian Dream, they recall this law. So they recall this law, and now let's see how will situation develop. This move is a right move in my understanding, because now if this anti governmental protests will continue, it becomes obvious that this so-called opposition and non-governmental organizations want to destabilize country and want to do some regime change with active help of USA. It will become clear, and we already had the statements. I did check Georgian media outlets, and we have information that so-called opposition, which is 100% controlled, so-called opposition and the non-governmental sector, which is 100% controlled by US, 100%. They did already made statements that despite government's decision, despite decision of ruling party to recall this law, this draft of the law about foreign agents, they will continue demonstrations, and they did announce that today, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, they will start yet another demonstration next to Parliament building. So yet again, man, as I said many times in previous days, if Washington is determined to push all the way towards regime change, I'm afraid that's what will happen. Washington will use not just these puppets in NGOs and political, so-called oppositions, political spectrum, but US will also use its assets in Georgian police, in Georgian military, in Georgian secret services, and quite possibly Washington and US secret services will also use so-called Georgian Legion, which is fighting along Ukrainian neo-Nazis for many years now. And quite possible that some units of this so-called Georgian Legion already have been transferred to Georgia and just waiting orders to open fire. So let's see how situation will develop. Georgian government made the right decision. So-called opposition and these NGOs were demanding this law to be recalled, and that's what government did. Basically, they did recall this law. But if these demonstrations and destabilization process will continue, then it's become obvious for everyone that we are seeing preparation for regime change. So let's see how it will develop. Elementary, man. I mean, just look at it. This so-called president of Georgia, Salome Zurabishvili, she is born in France. She was working for France foreign ministry. At one point, she was ambassador in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Then she became a politician in Georgia, and now she is a president. And at this moment, this moment, when this situation is developing in Georgia, she is in USA and she is making statements in support of these criminals that are throwing Molotov cocktails to police. She's openly supporting those criminals. So you tell me who she is, man. Did she really work for Georgian society? Of course no. Of course no. She is a CIA asset, man. She is a clear CIA asset. Maybe she has some affiliation with the French secret services, possibly, but main player in that field is CIA and MI6, isn't it? So she is a CIA asset, and she is making statements that Washington wants to hear, isn't it? So yet again, man, if Washington is determined to push towards regime change, to establish extremely Russophobic government in Georgia, and then open second front against Russia, we will see continuation of these so-called protests. I mean, this is not protest, man. This is clearly not just anti-governmental movement, but this is movement against state and against society itself, what the so-called opposition is doing, and NGOs. But yet again, if Washington wants to use Georgia as a second front, we will see that in next few days, situation will deteriorate, and at one point we will see introduction to this situation, weapons and armed units, maybe from so-called Georgian Legion, maybe even from official Georgian, military or police. But eventually, Washington will definitely try to establish a new regime, to escalate. Let's see how it goes, man. Let's see. This is RIA Novosti is reporting. Yet again, this article is based on information of US intelligence, according to which Russia is the main nuclear power in the world. So US intelligence is acknowledging that when it comes to nuclear weapons and nuclear capabilities, Russia is a major country in the world. And this is not secret. Russia has more nuclear weapons than US, France, and UK altogether, as I understand. So it's good that at least someone in current US government is thinking about situation between Russia and the West, and trying to operate with the information that may force U.S. government to be more cautious, because after all, Russia is a major nuclear power, and this is factor. Let's continue now. This is RT News Agency. How long is this video, man? 35 minutes. Only a few more news, and yes, this is it. So this is RT reporting that U.S. Congress rejects Syria troop pullout, which is yet again, man, that's not just double standards, but probably triple standards. You know, every day U.S. officials are saying that Russia should pull out its troops from Ukraine, but same time, U.S. officials are saying that, you know what, U.S. troops in Syria are because of interests of national security. So somehow, look at the map, man. Where is the USA and where is the Syria? And for some strange reasons, Syria is threatening U.S. security interests, and Ukraine, which is bordering Russia and which is extremely anti-Russian and which is killing Russian language people in the Ukraine. For some reason, Russia should not take Ukraine as a threat of its security and to security of Russian society and Russian speakers in general. I mean, what kind of logic is this? But yet again, man, we are talking about U.S. Leadership, and you know, when it comes to U.S. leadership, there is no sense there. They are not sane people. So what you gonna do? And it's sad. Let's be honest, man. It's sad, you know. I'm not happy when I see such a deterioration of U.S. elites. In my understanding, the world needs strong U.S. and U.S. which will be. Let me translate, man, this word. I mean, fair, strong and fair U.S., man. That's what world needs, really. Because we are talking about one of the major players in the world. Even if we achieve state of multipolarity, and that's gonna be a case, I believe, US will be one of the major players, isn't it? And the world needs US to be run by adequate people, by sane people, so that US itself will become not just strong and respectful, but fair. Without fairness, there will be no respect towards US or US government, isn't it? And that's why, you know, I'm not happy when I see this like huge deterioration of US ruling class, because it's not good for nobody, not for US citizens, first of all, of course, but not for anyone else. Because we are talking about very important country. You know, that's my take, at least. So RIA Novosti here, and we have information that in the Western world, some financial institutions and think tanks are now worrying that sanctions, anti-Russian sanctions, may hit West in catastrophic terms, in catastrophic level, because, for example, trade between Russia and India, oil trade, mainly done in currencies of Russia, India, or United Arab Emirates, not in dollars. And this is main danger for dollar as a world main currency, reserve currency, because if this trend is continuous and if more and more countries will start trade oil and some other commodities in different currencies, then there will be nothing to hold strength for the dollar, and dollar will just collapse. I did spoke about it many times before, even yesterday, isn't it? And now we have information that even Western analytics, and this information is based on Reuters, by the way, Western media source, isn't it? So yes, it's obvious. It's logical. That's why I was talking about this possibility, even though I'm not expert in finances, but it's just logical that this will happen. And now Western financial institutions and the think tanks are extremely worried that these sanctions, anti-Russian sanctions, may hit Western world much bigger way that they ever estimate. So it is what it is, man. And as you know, Russia is becoming number one supplier of crude oil for India. Let's continue. Few more informations about economy, and then yes, this will be it for at least this update. So we have TASS News Agency's report here that Swiss banks are now openly expressing their worries that Chinese clients are leaving Swiss banking sector, and main reason is that after anti-Russian sanctions and after so many Russian businessmen end up having trouble in the West, Chinese business don't want to end up in similar situation, and they are just trying to stay away from Western banking system. And this is also logical. I mean, it's what they were thinking, when they were putting so many sanctions on Russia. Rest of the world will look other way, or what? No, man, everyone is watching, and now everyone is understand that in current circumstances, West cannot be trusted, including Western banking sector. And it's obvious that not just Chinese businesses and businessmen will stay away from Swiss or Western in general banks, but also Indians from Saudi Arabia or from Middle East in general, from Africa or from Latin America. Probably even Europeans will stay away from European banking systems if they had such opportunity, because they cannot be trusted, man. And this is only beginning. This is only beginning, though. For example, Swiss banking system was mainly standing on trust, and now you have to be out of your mind if you put any money in Swiss banks, isn't it? I mean, you just have to be out of your mind. How you can trust any Western bank at all? So this is only beginning, though. Let's continue now. And yes, this is news. This is quite interesting news, that this one here, that on the border between Georgia and Russia, a queue of cars from Georgia, and this is citizens of Russia are trying to go back to Russia. This is our citizens that left Russia when special military operation began, and then mobilization, first and for this moment only wave of mobilization have begun. And yes, what I can say, man, that's a karma. That's a karma, you know. They were trying to flee Russia because they don't want to have anything to do with they don't want to risk to end up on the front line. And they end up in Georgia, where it's obvious that extremely Russophobic forces are now trying to do some regime change, conduct regime change. And if they succeed, if Washington wants this, and if they succeed, then Georgia gonna become a difficult place for Russians to stay. So it is what it is, man. And this is last news. RIA Novosti is reporting here that export from USA to Russia is in lowest level for last 30 years. And it's only, you're not gonna believe this. In January, export from USA to Russia was only $44.6 million. This is just, I mean, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. We can say that all economical relationships between Russia and USA are basically non-existent anymore, because 44 million, when we are talking about giant #1 economy in the world, which US definitely is, then 44 million is about nothing. So it's also sad because if it was up to me, of course I will prefer Russia to have great relationships with everybody, but it's not up to me or up to current Russian government. Western elites are conducting themselves like, I don't know, like entire world is their property. But they are mistaken. They are mistaken. And as long as they have some trouble with this realization that world is not their property, you know, West gonna have some difficulties with relationships with everybody, really, not just with Russia, but with everybody in this world. And this is it. This is it for now. I hope you will find 48 minutes. Come on, man. No matter how hard I try to make videos short, it's still too long. You know, this is it. This is it for this update. I hope you find this video interesting. I hope you find the news that I share with you interesting. And if so, please hit that like button. Leave some commentary about any topic you like. And if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. That will greatly help my channel to reach wider audience, and of course I will be very grateful for this help. And if you can, and if you want to, you can support my channel with donations through PayPal or Patreon. You will see links under this video in the description box. So yes, this is it for now. Have a nice day. Take care and see you soon.